I love you, and maybe that's the hardest thing I'll ever have to admit. Because if I didn't love you, living would have been easy. I wouldn't have stayed on my phone, wondering if you were going to call. I wouldn't have replayed our conversations in my head at 2 a.m. in the morning, searching for the exact moment when everything changed. I wouldn't have held on to memories long after the relationship had stopped giving me new ones. But I loved you. I loved the way you made ordinary days feel different. The sound of your voice, the little things you did without realizing I was memorizing them. The way your presence could make a room feel less lonely. I loved the version of myself that existed when I felt safe with you. And maybe that's why letting go hurt so much. Because I wasn't just losing you, I was losing a world I had built around you. The plans, the late night conversations, the little some days we said without thinking about how fragile someday really is. I thought love meant staying. I thought if two people loved each other enough, they would eventually figure out everything. So I stayed, even when I was tired, even when I was confused, even when I started feeling lonely beside the person I was supposed to feel closest to. I stayed because I thought leaving meant I didn't love you enough. But somewhere along the way, I realized something. Sometimes you can love someone deeply and still be deeply unhappy with them. And that's a truth nobody prepares you for. Because we are told that love is supposed to conquer everything. But love doesn't automatically heal wounds. Love doesn't automatically create trust. Love doesn't erase disrespect. Love doesn't make two people compatible. And love cannot survive forever on memories of how beautiful things used to be. Sometimes love is there, but peace isn't. Sometimes the feelings are real, but the relationship isn't held anymore. Sometimes two people can care about each other and still keep hurting each other. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop asking the relationship to become something it has already shown you it cannot be. I didn't stop loving you overnight. There wasn't one morning when I woke up and suddenly felt nothing. It happened slowly, in tiny pieces. Every unanswered question, every disappointment I learned to swallow. Every time I needed you and convinced myself I was asking for too much. Every time I cried quietly because I didn't want an argument. Every time I made myself smaller just to keep the peace. Until one day, I looked at myself and realized I was disappearing inside a love I was desperately trying to save. And I couldn't keep doing that. So if you are wondering whether I ever loved you, I did. God, I did. Maybe more than I knew how to explain, but eventually learned that loving you shouldn't require me to abandon myself. And that's where everything changed. I stopped asking, how do I make you stay? And started asking, why am I so afraid to leave? I stopped wondering whether you would finally choose me and started wondering why I kept waiting for someone to choose what I already knew I deserved. Maybe that's what growing in love really means. Understanding that being loved isn't supposed to feel like constantly auditioning for a role or for a role in someone's life. You shouldn't have to beg for tenderness. You shouldn't have to negotiate for honesty. You shouldn't have to lose your dignity just to keep someone's attention. And you shouldn't have to destroy yourself, proving that you are worth loving. So, yes, I love you. I probably always will, in some quiet corner of my heart. But I am learning that love doesn't always mean holding on. Sometimes love means accepting that the story has ended. Sometimes it means putting down the phone, deleting the messages you wanted to send, walking away without the apology you deserved, and learning to live with unanswered questions. Because closure doesn't always come from the people or the person who hurt you. Sometimes closure is simply deciding, I don't want to hurt like this anymore. Maybe one day I will hear your name and feel nothing but gratitude. Maybe I'll remember you without wishing you were still here. Maybe I will look back and understand why we had to end. But today, I'm still learning, still grieving, still letting go. And that's okay. Because moving on doesn't mean I never loved you. It means I finally accepted and I'm learning to love myself too. So, I love you. But I love me enough to live. I love you. But I love me enough not to beg. I love you, but I love me enough to stop confusing pain with devotion. And if this is where our story ends, then let it end gently. No hatred, no revenge, no pretending that you meant nothing for me. You meant something, you meant a lot. You are a chapter I will never erase, but you don't have to be the whole book. And maybe that's the most painful, beautiful truth about love. Sometimes the person you love isn't the person you are meant to spend forever with. Sometimes they are simply the person who teaches you that you deserve a love that doesn't require you to lose yourself. So I will carry the good, I will release the heart, and I will let you go. Not because I stopped loving you, but because I finally understood that loving you should never have required me to stop loving myself. Goodbye.